this is one of my first podcasts that my wife and I were endeavoring to help others to prepare themselves financially for what's coming as far as the money is concerned. I'm going to cover several points here. First point being 1971. In 1971, President Nixon took us off what's called the gold standard. Money was backed by gold before 1971, and he had the great idea to take us off of the gold standard, and so money became a currency. Now, throughout history, all currency has gone to zero. That's exactly where the dollar is headed. You could buy much more, I'm quite sure you know, in our parents' I'm 57, so in my parents' time, then you could buy with the dollar nowadays. On the converse of that is look at gold. Look at gold prices. Gold prices have gone through the roof. It's now over $1,500 an ounce. Currency, which is money, the monies of the world, not just the United States, are going to zero. They're going there fast. So I think we all should find a way to hedge on our finances or our savings so that we can be ready in case the dollar actually goes to zero. It's going, but who knows exactly when that's going to happen. I'm saying we should prepare ourselves and be ready. So I'm going to cover a couple of bullet points here. This is going to be a very short podcast. This first one, I want to go more into detail about these subjects as time passes. I've covered 1971, President Nixon had the bright idea of taking us off of the gold standard, and money became a currency at that time. And it's been steadily losing value since then. Number two, I'm going to cover a couple of principles that I've learned over the years. The first is called the Stockdale Paradox. The Stockdale Paradox goes like this. We must believe that we will succeed in the end in spite of the most brutal reality of our current circumstances. Let me go over that again. We must believe that we shall ultimately prevail in the end in spite of the most brutal reality or facing the most brutal reality of our current circumstances. General Stockdale was a general in World War II. A little history on Stockdale. Stockdale's troops loved him. They loved him so much till when their captors weren't looking, they sent code to him telling him that they loved him because he devised a system where no prisoner could actually take all of the abuse that was leveled on them against by their captors. So he came up with a system. During World War II, he was the captured commanding general, man in charge of the prisoners, at least of the prisoners. So he came up with a system that they could give out a little information at a time. In other words, they could give out some information to keep from being killed by the captors, just a little at a time. So this went on for years. So they were captured for a number of years, and as I said, the men really loved him. And when he got out, Jim Collins went to visit him. And he said, he asked him, how could you maintain your mental acuity or keep from going insane because over the years that you were actually locked up? They kept him in a cage that's, I'm 5'11", and they kept him in a cage of about maybe 4 feet. He didn't even have enough room for years to stand up. He said, as he walked down the college, because he was a professor at the time of this interview, as he walked down, arc swinging his leg that had been tortured many times while he was in captivity, he said that he asked this question to Jim Collins. You know the people that died in captivity and that lost all hope in captivity? The ones that lost all hope were the ones that they believed what the people were telling them from back home. You'll be out by Christmas. You'll be out by Thanksgiving. Christmas and Thanksgiving each year, year after year, would come and go. And they were not out. They did not go home. So these men died of heartbreak. They gave up hope finally. He said, you know, the men that made it, the men that made it were the ones that they said, yes, we're locked up, and I know we're going to get out in the end, but I'm not going to put a date on when we get out. I've been that route before. They told us we were going to be out last year, 2 or 3 years previous. We are not out. So what we're going to do is make the most of the situation we're in, and we know that we're going to get out in the end. That's why it's called the Stockdale Paradox. Again, the Stockdale Paradox goes like this. You must maintain the belief that you will ultimately prevail in the end in spite of your the most brutal reality of your current circumstances. That's the Stockdale Paradox. Now, principle number 2. It's called the principle of the flywheel and the doom. The flywheel and the doom loop. The doom loop starts off fast and picks up momentum very fast. However, because of the faulty construction of the spindle that it's attached to, although it starts off fast and picks up momentum fast, it soon becomes unhinged from the spindle, flies up into the air, crashes to the ground, and breaks into a million pieces. The other wheel, which looks like the doom loop, is called the flywheel. The flywheel picks up speed extremely slow, imperceptible to the eyes at first. So those observing the flywheel, they say, how can we even build momentum? We're not even moving fast enough to even get to momentum. They fail to realize that the flywheel, the spindle of the flywheel was constructed very sturdily. The flywheel's spindle took time to build. Its constructors made sure that the spindle was mounted correctly in the ground and that the actual flywheel was mounted correctly on the spindle. So the movement of the flywheel is very imperceptible at first. It moves very gradually, almost like I said, imperceptible to the human eye. But little by little, the flywheel begins to pick up momentum. It picks up momentum. Faster and faster and faster, the flywheel goes until finally it's traveling at great speeds. Another principle that I want to cover, next to the last principle I want to cover today, is the principle of the fox and the hedgehog. Now, all these principles cover the same thing. We must let the process mature. We mustn't rush the process by getting ahead of ourselves and not taking the time to properly prepare. Prepare means to cut in advance of placement, such as a seamstress who sews cloth, making a nice, beautiful tapestry of some sort. The seamstress cuts a piece of cloth out, and those observing say, well, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? They're cutting the cloth out, even though the blanket is not seen yet. So they're preparing, pre-cutting the cloth, so that when they place it along with the other panels of cloth, it turns out to be a beautiful tapestry that others can look at and say, how did she do that? She did it by process, step by step. This is what I'm telling you now. We must go through the process. We must let the process mature so that we won't miss any steps. Now, the fox and the hedgehog, which travels along the same line of thought as what I've already covered, goes like this. Every day in the forest of the world, the same scenario between two animals plays out. The fox and the hedgehog. The hedgehog, let me cover him first. The hedgehog wakes up, sets about the business of foraging for food, goes about moving slowly through the forest floor, eating whatever it eats. I don't know what it eats. But it moves very slow, foraging for food each day. The fox, on the other hand, is an animal with great speed. The fox also wakes up in the morning time and forages for food. Both animals foraging, the hedgehog and the fox. The fox in its journeys and its travels comes across the hedgehog. It sees the hedgehog at a distance, and as fast as its fox legs can carry it, it gallops toward the hedgehog. Just gallops fast as it can. Fox can run very fast also. The hedgehog doesn't even flinch. The hedgehog stays calm, sees the foolish fox approaching again, as it's played out many days before. Just as the fox thinks that it's going to get a hedgehog meal, the hedgehog balls up into a tiny ball with spikes protruding all from in every direction. The fox, on the other hand, sees the hedgehog impenetrable defenses, and it slinks away with its head down, probably saying to itself, foiled again. So it goes out and finds something that's easier to attack and kill and eat. So these principles, all three principles, Stockdale paradox, the flywheel and the doom loop, and also the hedgehog, the fox and the hedgehog, all these concepts say to us that we must let the process, the process must have a time of maturity so that we won't miss any steps, so that when we get to the next level, we already have in place the structure, the infrastructure that we need to build something great. I want to cover one last thing here. There's a tree in the Chinese world. In China, there's a tree. It's called the Chinese bamboo. Now, the Chinese bamboo, the planters of the bamboo tree, they plant the tree, no one sees anything, not even so much as any growth at all above ground for an entire 5 years. Now, 5 years go by, nothing, absolutely nothing. You're looking at the same plot of ground that the tree was planted in, you see nothing. The farmer of the bamboo tree, they don't get upset. They look at the ground and say, yeah, I know what's coming in year 5. So in year 5, because there was a process that took place, and the Chinese bamboo shot great root systems down into the ground. Great infrastructure to grow this plant. In year 5, a Chinese bamboo grows 5 feet tall or more in just 1 year. So you get that? 5 years below ground, nothing is seen. Year 5, 1 year alone, the tree goes 5 feet in 1 year alone. So the moral of the story here, people, is we must give the process a chance to work. We must go through the entire process. It may not be easy. Walking wasn't easy when we were babies. When you started to travel the floors of your house, wherever that may have been, it wasn't easy. You started off with a low crawl. You started, and then you went to crawling. And then you you stood up on the end of a table. And I watched my granddaughter and grandson do this, which was very special to me back in the day of maybe about 7 years ago. I watched them when I wasn't on the road, because I was on the road for years before I was able to even interact with my grandchildren. Just out on the road, traveling up and down the roadway, another story, another time. So anyway, I watched him. He did like this first, fell on his butt. But did he give up? Do we give up? Are you going to give up on your dreams just because you may have fallen and not taken the proper time to let the process mature? Are you going to give up? No, we won't. We will not give up on our dream. We will keep pressing on, and we will make it. We will make it. Okay? So he fell one time, got up, went back to the same steadier again. Took about 3 or 4 more steps. Boom! I fell on his butt again. Then I run up to him and say, let me help you, grandson. No, I knew what was happening. just as the Heavenly Father knows what's happening with us. Even though we fall, we shouldn't stay down. Get back up, just like my grandson did. He got back up until finally he walked across the entire room, and my heart just went out. It went out to him, and I was so thankful that I was able to see my grandson and granddaughter start to walk when they started the process of walking. Heck, a week later, they were walking everywhere. You couldn't stop them from walking. Anyway, I've covered 3 principles here. I'm going to tell you again what I've covered. I've covered 3 principles. The first principle was, let me make sure I get this right. The first principle was the Stockdale paradox. We must maintain the belief that we will achieve our goals. We will prevail in the end, despite the most brutal facts of where we find ourselves today. That's the Stockdale paradox. The flywheel and the doom loop. The doom loop picks up momentum very fast, but because of faulty construction of the spindle, it soon fly off of the spindle into the air, crashes to the ground, and breaks into a million pieces. The flywheel picks up momentum gradually, imperceptible to the human eye at first, but because the process is allowed to continue, momentum is achieved. Momentum is achieved, soon the flywheel is going faster and faster and faster and faster, until finally you got a great machine spinning and achieving great momentum because of the process being allowed to mature. All right, the last concept, the fox and the hedgehog. The fox, although faster, thinks that he has it up on the hedgehog, but the hedgehog, knowing its strategy, having prepared itself, when the fox approaches at breakneck speed, the hedgehog balls up into a tiny ball with protruding spikes in all directions. The fox doesn't have a chance against this defense. This is preparation. The fox doesn't have a chance against this defense, so it slinks away, hopes thwarted, because the hedgehog has impenetrable defense. All right, I've covered 3 principles. That's all I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to end this session admonishing each of us to go for your dreams. Don't let anyone or anybody stop you. Your family may not agree. Your friends may tell you you're crazy. But are you going to let that stop you? Are you going to let that stop you, or are you going to let the process mature and go on to build your life into the great structure that God intended? I believe you have it in you. Let's keep